Okay, so first of all, John, thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you, taking some time off of your schedule, off of your life. I was so excited when I chatted with your daughter, and I was like, oh, please, please, may I request to chat with him, because I know I'm one of those people, like, I know I'm supposed to help, but there's part of me that my thoughts were influenced by things I hear from people, not necessarily with my experience, because I have no experience about things. And this is really the first time I'm actually talking to, like, a testimony like yourself. So for me, I was like, oh my goodness, this would just, like, one, help me understand, but not only that, help people that would listen in.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited. So first of all, Mr. John, I'm sorry, pardon me if I say Mr. once in a while.
All right.
Please give us a little bit of your childhood background. Maybe we can start, or is that something okay for you to share with us? A little bit of background?
Yes, I was born in 1951, and I was born in Des Moines, Iowa, and I was born to Estes Ware, that's my father, and Louise Ware, my mother. My dad, when I was born, he was a pharmacist, and he had a pharmacy called Metropolitan Pharmacy. My mom was a key punch operator, and my dad sold the pharmacy and started back to school and went to school to become a doctor. And yes, Dr. Estes J. Ware. And my mother basically went back to school and became a nurse. So I came from a medical family, basically. I had a sister. She was 7 years old when I was born. And she was not very happy because she wanted to be the only child. So I kind of spoiled everything for her. So one of my things as a child, I was 5 years old, I'd sit on the porch and I could name off cars and they went by. We lived on a very busy street. 1442 University was the address, and I'd name off cars like, there goes a Plymouth, there goes a Packard, there goes a Pontiac. And I really knew, I always had a love for cars. So growing up as a teenager, I did a lot of, dreaming about muscle cars, because we had the Camaros, the Mustangs, the Chargers, the Cudas. And so I actually owned a car when I was a teenager. My first car was a convertible. I had an F85 Oldsmobile, and then I had a Mustang GT, and then I had a Super B, and then I had a Z28. So I had a bunch of muscle cars.
You had a great collection there.
Yes, indeed. And so, I went to school at Lincoln High School back in Des Moines, Iowa. And one day, driving from the game, I ran into three girls, actually. I had two buddies with me. And one of them turned out to end up being my wife. So I met Pamela J. after a basketball game going down the street. So that was kind of exciting. That was my childhood, basically. I graduated Lincoln High School and got married. Had a daughter, Tori. 1972, we were in a fire in a 4-story building, and we had to jump out. And my daughter was born 2 days later, so that was kind of a unique situation there. So, and then we ended up moving out in the country. We lived in Swan, Iowa. And a few years later, in 1976, my daughter Chantel was born. And then 2 years later, I have a son, Estes John Ware III. He was born. So, and we lived out in the country, and I worked in town. I worked at a printing shop. And we had like a little hobby farm. We raised animals. We had, dogs and cats, but we also had hogs. We had 11 hogs, and we had cattle. And I had a little tractor. We had a garden. We cut firewood, and we had a 3-level house on 2 acres of land. So we had quite a big wood pile we had going on. So, and the children went to Pleasantville High School, or Pleasantville school system. So they really had a really good school to go to. So
thank you. and that and got me to like really get this foundation of question. So of course, I've only been on this earth for about close to 35 years.
Right.
So my life experience is still minimal at this point. And this is what I appreciate about these conversations, because I really truly believe that you guys are walking treasures for us. And to a point where if people has done it, they had these are their challenges and this is how they resolve it. Why do I need to really go through the process if I can just understand the process and then skip the heartache?
Okay.
That's my thought. Although sometimes, and most of the time, I am personally hard-headed, even though the way has been shown. Actually, walking it sometimes is still a challenge and a struggle, because there's that fight, the fight of the right path, and the fight within myself, which is my imperfection and my personal desires. And still the mind is still growing and maturing, and really setting up that mindset. So going back to your upbringing, so this is very interesting, because most people, or there's some conversation where it's important to have the right foundation in the household, then that would determine the success in life of the children. And with your upbringing, it is really your typical, hardworking parents having great careers and having children. So you're for coming from a medical field and your parents having a great profession growing up. Uh, did you feel that you had the right foundation with the parents that you grew up with?
Well, I did have wonderful parents, and my dad was a very busy person. He was a doctor, and he had a lot of house calls to make. Back then they did house calls. They didn't just have people come to the offices. And so he was a surgeon, so he did a lot of, I called at nighttime quite a bit, for emergency surgeries or someone having children. So he was a very busy man.
So if I understand, Mr. John, really the way you grew up is very normal, like very regular type of upbringing, because you were raised up by your parents, who are, in my opinion, successful already to provide for the family, and also impacting people's lives, others, by in the medical field. That's huge. So you grew up already that way, and then you went to school, had also a great job. So you really went through a normal, prosperous life. So, which brings me to the question. Thank you for sharing us with your childhood. Because my thoughts of this interview is how did a person get to that point, which is being homeless, and then how did that person from being homeless get to where you are today, which is successful, prosperous, and impactful, and really paying forward and changing the community. So with that timeline that you shared of your life from birth to having 3 kids and having a family, you lived a very normal American life.
Yes, I did. Yes, we did.
So the typical stereotype was there was addiction, there was post-traumatic events, a lot of like possibly mental challenge, mindset challenge, something tragic that happened for a person to come to homelessness. So was that the case for you? Well, what was the like what was happening to get you to the point of being homeless?
Well, like I said, I was married with 3 children. Everything was happily. My youngest child got 12 years old. The former wife started working outside the home, and she ended up didn't want to be married anymore, so we got divorced. And so for 7 years, I did well. I worked my job. I had my hobbies, and I got involved in the prison ministry. And I met a girl in prison, and when she got out of prison, I ended up letting her move in my house, and she was into crack cocaine. So I came home one day, and she's with her friends, and I started doing the drug. And within 6 months, I lost my job, and she was very abusive. She punched me in my face and everything. And my sister basically came from Colorado to save her brother, so she took me back to Colorado, or took me to Colorado, and I got a job, and I'd sold my home, and basically I still wanted to get high at some point. So I went on the streets of Denver, and I started getting high again. And I was living with my sister, and my sister got tired of me, bringing people home and everything. So she kicked me out of the house. So I ended up being homeless on the streets. And so a week before I became homeless, there were two men that were killed with their heads cut off. And I was working right down where it happened. I was in a 4-story building. I looked in the field, and I seen the face over there. There was a gang from Highlands Ranch. They were coming up, and they were killing homeless men. They killed 8 of them total. And so, like I said, the next week I was homeless. So when I became homeless, I was like sleeping on the street. So I'd sleep out of the Capitol, and on the heat vent at 5 o'clock in the morning, the state police come by, tell me to move on. And then it got to the point where I was sleeping underneath bushes because I'd lost my job at construction. And I was sleeping underneath bushes, and the birds would sing and would be on my alarm clock. And so I'm living on the streets and working day labor, and then I ended up eventually living in motels on Colfax, which I was still homeless. I was sharing a room with another guy, and my addiction, I couldn't get out of it. I was living in a high crime area where there were a lot of drug addicts, a lot of drug dealers, and a lot of different things going on. Where I tried to go a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and I couldn't get clean. So.
Oh, thank you again for sharing, Mr. John. So from the story that you mentioned, that you said, from my point, what started it was the divorce.
Well, actually, it happened 7 years after the divorce. But because I was doing very well, I just met the wrong person, and I should have. And I was told not to give my phone number away, but I broke the rules, and I gave her my phone number, so she started calling me, and then we started writing on the letters back and forth while she was in prison.
Wow, reminded me of Eve. Oh my goodness, we are complicated, aren't we? We're very powerful women. If only we can use our power very positively. So it wasn't the divorce, but it was a lady.
Yes, indeed.
And it was a lady that was not a great influence.
That's true.
And that started because of, like you said, breaking the rules.
Yes.
So I guess the ministry that you were doing, the prison ministry that you were involved in, so you already have reaching out of heart. You have the heart to reach out. You have a heart already to help others. And in a way, it kind of slightly backfired with the wrong person.
Right. And another thing, I was starting to have some little issues at work with some things. And so when I went home and she was getting high, I just wanted to, kind of forget about things. And so it was kind of like a 2-point thing. It was kind of like my work environment that I was dealing with, and then coming into her environment where she was at. And so the two together was devastating to my life.
So you, with your story, it just really justifies again the principle of bad association ruins good habit.
That's true.
It's so impactful that it really changes your life in a negative way. It might not be immediate, but it took time. So on a positive note, do you also believe that if bad association ruins good habit, then good association creates great habits?
That's true.
And so because you're already in this negative environment with the lady, and then you have challenges at work, it almost like it just put more fire into that negative environment, and it just kind of added on stuff. How long was that relationship before you let go of it?
That relationship went on for probably 6 months. Like I said, well, I had the job for 6 months, so it went like 6 months after when I first met her. I mean, so it was like a year. It was like 6 months of working, and then 6 months of being in a constant, chaos with her.
So, Mr. John, this was just in between 6 to 12 months of your life.
Yes,
And that pretty much changed everything.
yes, indeed.
But it was not. It was just 6 to 12 months.
Basically, like I said, I met her, and then she moved in my house, and then, a few weeks later, she's doing drugs, and I'm doing drugs with her, and then I lose my job, and then after 6 months of like formation of, selling all my possessions, to support my habit, and I got unemployment, so all the money that I got, I wasn't paying bills. I was just, getting high with it. So I had a lot of possessions. So I figured my addiction with, selling my house, and I had a real estate property, 401k. I probably went through $600 to $750,000 worth of income, lost income in property and stuff. So it cost me a lot of money to support that habit.
So drug is really that intense. I never thought it would be just like that, because when I hear people having some challenge with it, I feel in my understanding 5 minutes ago that it took time, but it doesn't have to take time for it to have a hold on you. Could you explain a little bit of that, please?
Well, like I said, the drug, the cocaine is this, your body it craves it, and it costs a lot of money to buy it, and it doesn't really last very long. And then I was supporting other people's habits, so I was just trying to run away from reality, and it just kept getting deeper and deeper in the hole.
What was your mindset knowing that your family was there to help you out? Because I know for sure there's a lot of like family members that really, truly, deeply with love and care wants to help their family members to get out of that rut, to get out of that hole.
Right. Well, when it first happened, like my daughter that lived in Knoxville, she tried to help me. Her and her husband came up and they wanted to get me in a rehab, and I wouldn't have anything to do with it. So I didn't want any help at all. And then my sister, when I moved to Colorado, she tried to get me in a program, which wasn't really a program. It's just you call in and you have a color. And I floated through that. So it wasn't, I didn't try to get help until I went further to the hole, and I had to cry out myself. And a friend told me about the rescue mission, and that's when I got help. So I was down at the bottom of the barrel and had nowhere else to do.
So your mindset was at the point it was closed, has nothing to do with the help. But you recognized and understood that they were helping you. But at the moment that did not motivate you to get yourself out of the hole.
No, when you're addicted to drugs, all you think about is getting high. You want to get your next high. You don't care about paying bills or anything else. You want to get that feeling.
Even though from your heart you also love, of course, you love your daughter, you have your sister that's helping you out. But it's just that was not registering in your mind and your heart.
I was just focused like a shark going for a man, saying you want to get that drug.
And how long were you in that period of like just being on your own, going through the next, I guess, high? And how long was that period?
From 1999 till I got in the program at mid 2001. So about 3.5 years, I was living on the streets.
While living on the street, what was your thoughts? Like just through the days of 3.5 years before the change, like just that time period.
Well, thing is, I went to day labor. I went to work, got the money, and paid my rent at the motel, so I have a place. And I tried to save money, and then I'd end up falling almost all the time. The money I had left over, I'd end up going for drugs.
Was it a mindset, or was it the help that got you to switch, like really switch your life to better?
The better is this, when I got the help, because I couldn't do it on my own. I needed structure. And, I tried, like I said, I go a day or two or a week or whatever. and somebody knock on the door and they'd have some alcohol or whatever, and I'd end up going back to the dope man.
You had the desire for change. You had the desire to get better, but you just didn't know how and didn't have the help at the time.
I didn't have the willpower, and I didn't have the knowledge of the help. I didn't really know about the rescue mission until I went to the bottom of the barrel. So,
Mr. John, what was the difference between getting help from your sister and daughter versus getting help from the organization?
well, I didn't really want the help from my sister, my daughter at the time. You know, I just wanted to keep doing what I wanted to do. I wanted to be satisfied myself. I was selfish, so I was just thinking about me. I wouldn't think about anything else.
Would it make a difference if your sister or your daughter 3 years later reach out to you again for help? Would it be the same or would it be different?
Well, I mean, I just found out about the third party organization. I was just ready at that time. If they would have came to me at that week or whatever, I'd been ready for the structure.
The bottom line is they have to desire it.
Right, because I had to be ready to accept it at that time. Like you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. And that's how it was with an addict. They have to be ready. They have to go through what they have to go through. They're sick and tired, and ready to surrender. It's like a battle with the army. You get beat up so bad, you're ready. You know what I'm saying? As long as you have money in your pocket and everything, you're going to do what you want to do. As soon as you get it broken, that's when the time that you can allow it to get healed.
What triggered your desire is because you're tired of being tired.
I was just tired of my lifestyle. I was tired of hearing gunshots in the middle of the night. I was just tired around the people that I work with, people manipulating. You go through four steps for an addiction. The first one's recreational, which I went through. The second one's a user, where you're using every day. The third one is a manipulator, where you're conning people out of money and everything. And I was around a lot of people that were doing that. And then the last stage is kill, steal, destroy. So I knew if I stayed in the situation that eventually I would be manipulating people and I would be robbing people or whatever to get drugs. So I didn't want to go through those 4 stages. The first 2 stages was enough for me.
Hello, everyone. That was the first segment take with Mr. John Ware. Please stay tuned to the next segment, and it's coming up, and we'll find out how he maintained and now empowering others to change their lives for the better. Thank you again for listening. Until next time.